that way. Just
Which
a
way?
little bit. That way. No, this way. I'm sorry. And I'm going to move my chair down. I'm Jeff Lyons. Welcome to Inside Look. Joined today an unprecedented third time by cinema.
You're a glutton
cat.
for punishment.
Yeah, that's right. Teddy Haycraft from the TV station, and actually, just by virtue of seniority, I think you should have your own show.
Well, we're
in
in discussions. There's some things brewing. Maybe we'll see something happening
Right.
here.
Well, I have a very specific reason to have you on here today. And, of course, we talked about this before, because I kind of look at you as like the set of encyclopedias in the station. You know so much about so many things. And I was an encyclopedia reader when I was a kid. I just pull one out randomly and read
I love my set, too.
Now, of course, it's Wikipedia. But the point is, today we're going to just pull one volume out. So this one's F for film. And we're going to dive down on what film is, what makes film like a movie versus a TV show, etc. And what made me think about this was this talked about merger, I guess now completed merger between Netflix and Warner
Has it been
Brothers.
completed?
Well, they're pretty close.
Because Paramount was going to.
Yeah, and Paramount's trying to outbid them.
Right.
But the point here is that in the, what would it be, the entertainment complex out there, the industrial entertainment complex, you got all these players trying to consolidate down and grab the content and have control. And the fear was that if Netflix gets it, they're a streamer, right? I mean, they're known for streaming.
Right.
That they would close theaters. They don't want to have brick and mortar theatrical releases and deal with all that. And so my first question to you, this is a long question, but it'll get you going. What would we be without theatrically released movies? Do you really think that would ever happen?
Well, no. I think we're always going to have. I mean, we still have opera.
Yeah,
We
that's
still
true.
have ballet.
Very good point.
Vinyl's made a comeback.
Yeah.
I think there will always be some form of theatrical cinema exhibition going on. Now, where it's going to morph, I'll never forget Spielberg. I think it was Scorsese and Spielberg or something. They talked about how it may get to a point where it's just down to one or two giant blockbuster films, and it's an event, like going to the Broadway play.
That are produced theatrically.
And then that's what the theaters will play. But then there also the counteract that there might be art houses might have a comeback, like there's one in Belcourt. There's a theater outside of Indianapolis, Artcraft, and they show 35 millimeter still, and so that might cause that to happen for us, for people that want that experience. So it'd be a very boutique
boutique
situation.
kind of thing. Yeah. Well, let me ask you this. This is going to seem like a really obtuse question, but if you think about it a little bit, maybe not. I hope not. I hope to sound smart on these things, but best laid plans.
All right.
What makes a film a film? In other words, you got TV shows, you have TikTok videos, you have all kinds of stuff. But what makes, in your mind, a film a film?
Well, the one big thing, which is funny because I almost like to go to the theater and have nobody in there because people, the phones and talking, and even people that you think would know better. But the whole thing, the one thing that you hear essays on and reams of writings on it is the communal aspect of it. You go in there, you're in a darkened room, you're in a whole room of strangers, and if the movie is working, you all gasp at the same time, you laugh at the same time, with strangers, and you have this experience that you can get nowhere else with a communal. But like I said, nowadays people have grown up so much with TV now at home, and they talk over it, and they go to the bathroom, they distract, or go on their phone, or watch it and be on the phone, and so they don't have the respect that we used to have when you walked in theater. A lot of times back in the day, you dress up, and it would be a thing to do. And then it's immersive too, as opposed to being at home on TV. It's just white noise sometimes. It's just on. I've always found it funny when I've been with some family members or someone at a hotel. First thing they got to do is turn the TV on in the hotel room, and it's just like
just to have a little noise.
Yeah. And then just nothing, just goes by. So I just watched The Shining recently on IMAX, and anytime I see a movie like that and especially on an IMAX screen, you see things that you never see. You may have a pretty good audio visual system at home, but it's still something about if it's done right in a big screen with that audio, and it demands your attention because you're in there. It's like going to church. Are you going to pay your $12, $10, whatever you're paying, and then all of a sudden are you going to leave or you're going to get out of it? And it's just like when you're in church, you stay for the whole sermon, whether you like the sermon or not,
Yeah.
So it's there's a vibe to it that you can't get anywhere else. Of course, at one time before TV became the dominant medium, that was the thing to do. And movies moved, and movies there were tons and tons of movies they would turn over within a week, within several days there'd be another movie to go see, and there was the serials on Saturdays and stuff.
Talk about the artistic side of it. So, I mean, is this kind of like hanging the Mona Lisa in your garage? It wouldn't quite have the same impact as seeing it in the Louvre. When an artist puts a film together, the director of photography, the writer, the actors, all of that, their intent is to be theatrically exhibited on this big screen. So there are certain things that they can do that you couldn't do if you were just producing a TV show.
Especially blockbusters. But, and it's, boy, we're going down a lot of rabbit holes here. We could, because
no,
CGI.
don't go down the rabbit hole. But just, yeah.
That you can sense when something's done in camera and real or real stunt. And again, the immensity of it, you don't get that sense on television. And then, TV shows and serialization, it's great, it's wonderful, and you can do long form storytelling, but serial. And then it gets to a point where it's like, okay, we've exhausted it, and it's like now it's like it's jumped the shark.
Right, like Happy Days.
So whereas a director can mold this thing and put, he chooses the color, the look of the film, the set design, everything is intentional. It's not just random. It's going to be a bad film. It's just randomly done, or done cheaply, or done without thinking through these things. But you were Martin Scorsese's, or let's go back to David Lean, or let's any type of director, Terrence Malick. They are controlling every different aspect, and hopefully sometimes the subtext is intentional, sometimes it's not. Sometimes it just accidentally happens.
Yeah. So let's turn the table here. So now I'm Netflix. I'm putting out content that is in some ways just as good as, at least if you look at it on TV, it has very high production value. It might not be to, like, say, a film or a blockbuster, but a lot more than, say, if you're just watching a sitcom on NBC. So these streaming shows, many of them, when you watch, they're like, my God, what would the budget have to be for this? Some of the effects and some of the things they do. What's the motivation there? I mean, why not just go ahead and make it a film?
Well, it is, but see, that's the thing. Scorsese was asked by Netflix, well, no, I don't know. I mean, I don't know the entire how it all came about, but more a big giant gangster film it's going to take a lot of money, and he's going to have De Niro. He did The Irishman, but it was a Netflix film. It's a film. That is Roma was an Oscar-winning film, and Netflix put the money up for it. Networks is courting the prestige. They want the prestige, and so and that thing will hold up on a big screen, which it did. They give it and they have to do a window of theatrical showing, or they don't. It's not up for awards. But they want to win those Oscars. They want to get the attention and say, hey, we're a legit studio. But we want to be in your home and then streaming it. We want the subscriptions.
So all of this money, all of this jockeying for power and control is about prestige.
Part of it, yes, a big part of it, and then it gives opportunities that Noah Baumbach, Martin Scorsese, Steven Soderbergh, some of my favorite directors. They might not get the money from studio for the theatrical, because it's not going to make that much money in its theatrical run. So these deep pockets of these streaming services say, we'll foot the bill, and we'll get you to do your film with us.
Yeah.
Apple TV. I mean, the latest, some of the latest films I just watched on Apple TV was by some prestigious directors.
Yeah. So when you're looking for money as a producer, you're going out. You say, I've got this idea. You're pitching a script basically, or a project. Is the first stop for them now typically, the Paramounts of the world, or do they go directly to your Netflix and your streaming Apple Plus and some of the?
That's a good question. And to be honest, I don't really get caught up on all that. I don't really. I have some friends that will say, they're reading the internet and they read all the politics and the wrangling. I don't think I get frustrated because I don't want to subscribe to all these streaming services because you almost have to have every one to see everything I would want to see. But I think I've lost it. What was the question?
No, I just asked finding the money. If you have a project,
Yeah, the finding the money. That's
do you
that's
go to
a huge.
a legacy studio, or do you go to a?
Well, no, I think they want to go through a legacy studio first. I mean, I'm like I said, I'm just real spitballing here.
That's fine.
They will want to. You want to? Oh, my film's 20th Century Fox, or well, that's not around anymore. It's Fox Studios, but Paramount, Columbia, RKO's gone. Universal. You like to be part of that family, be part of that prestige of having that logo and everything. But and a lot of them have their own little sub categories of releases. Universal has feature focus features, and Fox had Searchlight, but that's all split up because they got Disney bought up
Right.
Fox.
So it's basically brand extensions,
Branding, but look, if Marty, my good friend Marty Scorsese, Marty wants to do this gangster film with De Niro and Keitel and get Joe Pesci out of retirement. Netflix is here. We'll give you the money. Here it is. And why would you say no? You may never get to do that film. So
you go to a lot of movies in a week. I mean, we've talked about this on the other two podcasts. Typically, how many films would you see at the theater in a week, just a given week?
Well, there's some given weeks I'm watching something some way almost all 5 nights.
Okay, so we'll just put the number at 5 since we're spitballing here. Now,
right.
how much streaming do you watch then versus the theatrical
I don't
stuff?
Really. It's because I do go to the theater. I want to support the theater. I want to promote the theater. I like the theater. I'm being an old crusty man here.
You are an old crusty man. We both are.
I have a decent system at home, but I just never have messed with streaming. If there's something super important, I go to my sister's or maybe a friend's house or something like that. But a lot of times I'm always bugging the Steelers, like, why don't you guys book this for the 2-week window? Guillermo del Toro's Frankenstein, which was a Netflix film, it had a short 2-3 week window, and the Speed Art Museum in Louisville played it, and so I made a 2-hour trip over to go see it there.
But see, you would drive 2 hours just to see a film presented.
And it was worth it.
Okay, and that's fine. I mean, that's why you're Ted Haycraft, cinema chat expert, pop culture guru, and so forth. Well, getting back around to the actual content and the format of it. So, in your experience, and of course you've seen a lot more things than I ever will, but is it harder for a movie to make the transition down to a smaller medium, say television, streaming, or the other way around? I mean, does it ever go the other way around? I mean, like Downton Abbey would be an example of a show that was on PBS, and then they did a theatrical release, sort of a tie it all together. But is
three films?
Yeah, is scaling up harder or scaling down harder? I mean, I think I already know the answer because we show a lot of movies on TV, but not the other way around. You wouldn't go to the theater to watch, a Friends reunion or something like that.
Well, I mean, in terms of scaling down, like, are you saying something like, Lawrence of Arabia should never be seen on a TV screen? That's a film that.
Yeah, this is what I'm getting at. Okay.
That is just difficult to do, or either the bigness of Spartacus, or Ben-Hur, those classic spectacles. Epic. But this is where we got people watching their movies on a phone now, on their phone with that size. So I don't. To me, it's like I'm kind of happy. Okay, if at least they're watching movies, that's great. Or watching it, so I don't want to get too, old man on a bridge, yelling at the world or something. But I think it gets difficult. It's funny too. A lot of it seems like the rule of thumb on a TV series being turned into movies always fail or bomb out. There are some examples that are okay, but. I don't know. That's a good question. It just depends on the material.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. How much do you think that the material governs what the format will be on the output. In other words, I have an idea here on paper. I've got a project I want to put through. Who makes the decision? I guess the producer, the creator would make the decision initially. Oh, this should be a movie, or no, that's a TV show, or that's probably
That's probably going to. No, that's probably going to be the committee, the CEO and the studio heads
Yeah.
at the studios, and the money. They got the crunch. The crunch
Well, sure.
the money.
The money. Let's say money's no object. Then
Well,
what do you think
and
the
it seems
basis
like that's
is?
been that seems like that's been part of the interesting thing about some of these major directors doing films for the streaming services is because they're getting the budget they want to get, which they couldn't get that from normal routes.
But the trade-off is no.
Yeah,
theatrical release, you're just on streaming.
or a few theaters, few screens, and then it gets lost in the menu.
Right.
Because I've been there at my sister's house and going through that menu, like, oh my gosh, and then you just gotta.
Yeah.
Then you just.
Well, it's like going to the
clicking.
video store back in the day, where you just would wander the aisles, and you're starving, at a
Yeah.
banquet, and yet you just don't even know where to start.
But it seems like the video store, at least, it seemed like you could, because it was right there as a hard object, you could pinpoint it.
Yeah, you
a
can
little
pull it
bit
out,
better.
look at it,
And as
kick the
opposed
tires.
to, and again, you're taking that home and you're paying for it and you want to watch it and you have a deadline to get it done. So there's a more attention grabbing on it. You have it on streaming services. It's just, you could just stop it or not get back to it. Or how many times do people watch some movies and it's not get very good and they just stop it.
Yeah, you stop. But you probably wouldn't walk out of a movie.
No,
I mean,
no.
that you already have this investment. You've gone there. You parked the car. You're going to watch. Yeah, I mean, you've been in theaters your whole life. Do you think that people are still going to the movies at a level that they did back then?
Here's the thing. You can never figure out. There's no magic formula or key or what's going to happen because this is James L. Brooks has got a new film out. He hasn't done a film. This is the broadcast news terms of
right.
and he's in his early 80s and it kind of flatlined. The movie's not that great. But high expectations. You think, oh, this guy. Look at the cast. Look at look at his track record, and then nothing. The Wicked did very well. It's going to be curious to see. Zootopia too. That's the thing. One thing about recent trends is that it's either the giant blockbuster, the animated film for the kids, the family. The family could just drop their kids off and let and
Right.
they can sit there and
In the safety of a darkened theater with strangers. Yeah, perfect parents.
well that's how many kids I was.
That's right.
I was dropped off a lot of times at the Ross Theater, in
Yeah.
Evansville, Indiana, and seen Disney films all the time, or horror films. And horror films can be made cheaply, and it's a great date night, Friday night, Saturday nights, couples, and they could not to say there's some really innovative, really cool horror films, but they're a dime a dozen, and it's cheaply made. So it's just you can't figure out what it's going to happen. I think, like I said, theater it's going to be here. What's really strange is people our age when they come back out and come to the theater and get back, and they see something, they hear something on the Today Show or Time Magazine or whatever. They have forgotten how to act in the theater, and they're just as bad sometimes as the young kids with their phones.
Yeah, talking over.
They're just
it and-
talking, wow, that reminds me of my vacation. Look at that tree, honey. We got one of those in our backyard.
That's true everywhere, though. I mean, I was at the Pops concert. It's a live musicians a couple of weeks ago, and the kids in front of me were eating hot dogs. It's like, where do you get a hot dog at an orchestra concert? But I mean, that's another topic for another podcast.
Because I'm always like messaging Mick and Mark Steeler. Like, hey, why don't you guys maybe try this film or this film? Or I bug them all the time, and of course, a lot of times I think surely there will be an audience for it, and then they might book it and then nothing.
Yeah.
But then like a good example is a Talking Heads concert film from 20 years ago, or I can't. I'm bad at time.
Yeah.
It was put back in the IMAX, and they had a good turnout for it. But a lot of
And you
times,
might have had enough people from the 80s that remember the Talking
Exactly,
Heads. They're
and-
big fans, and they wanted to go see it.
but yet they it's hard to because other films they might book something like that, and nobody shows up, and that's an expenditure on their part.
Right. Yeah, they're
So,
taking a risk every
yeah.
time they book a film. So I guess to tie it up with a bow, should we worry then about Netflix conquering the world of entertainment here, or do you think they really, truly will maintain?
The main thing is
theatrical
the
release?
diversity. I think the guilds and the writers and the creative. In 1948, 49, the vertical integration, the studios own the theaters, and then so that's anti. We got antitrust. We got to break that up and da da da. 2020 comes around. They said, "Oh no, you can do that again, in limited amount." There's still some. So they're afraid that if Warner Brothers, who's sort of right now HBO Max is really their outlet for films, Warner Brothers will greenlight films because they know, okay, if it doesn't do well at the theater, we have HBO to put it on. So Netflix wants it so they can start putting a lot of films on there, and it funnels down. So that means less things being made. If there's instead of Netflix making their stuff and Warner Brothers making their stuff, now it's combined,
right?
And so there'll be less of adventuring, or this budget, or there won't be that money for that smaller film or for that director, up and coming director. That's kind of the fear, I think, going on with it.
Yeah.
But I think streaming's here to stay, and theater showing won't go away, but it's going to morph, and it's going to keep on morphing and evolving.
Everything keeps morphing, and Hollywood has morphed. I mean, we've morphed, for Pete's sake.
Think about silent period. I mean, there were people that didn't want the talkies to come along. You know, I mean, and the art of film was becoming just unbelievable in the silent period, and the talkies came along. Plonk,
Yep, just start over.
The camera's got to be stationary, and they don't know how to handle the microphones, and it's just and the TV came along, and they were scared to death. They came up with a widescreen. They tried 3D, and 3D is now popping in and out all the time.
Yeah. Always a gimmick, right? To
Yes.
try to keep people in there. Kind of like Inside Look. Always a gimmick here to get people in. Teddy, I appreciate you coming in. You're right through that door. Every time I do a podcast, I see you out there, and I think, well, what could I ask?
I know. I mean, I think I feel like I haven't been adequate with answering your questions thoroughly.
I haven't been adequate in asking them
because,
either.
I just love movie going, and I love the artistry and the creativity. And what I read about and what I do study is directors' careers and how they, and the creativity and the production and the ensemble work. I don't really get into business.
Yeah,
or
I
try to
don't
analyze
either.
it
I mean, I
too.
hear it on the news, and I just thought, because it ultimately it will affect, what you get to see and where you get to see it, or it could, and maybe not, and maybe there's something even better over the horizon. Who knows?
And if you really like to live, if you want to see some really good, interesting films, you got to live in a bigger city. Unfortunately, the demographics in Evansville, they love movies, but they're mostly commercial type movies.
Sure.
So I got some friends that just gripe, and I used to be one of them. And I've come to and that plus all movies and streaming, you're seeing the stuff that you did miss.
Right.
So it's not the end of the world, but it sure does diminish it if the streaming services seem like I said, just that communal aspect and that immersive aspect, and to see it done that way and being locked in, if you're not locked in at home, no matter what you say.
Right. You got
but
to answer the phone or
yeah,
whatever.
unless you get a movie that you really get invested in, and then it's kind of nice to have this experience at home on a one-on-one film that you've been wanting to see or never heard about, and then you discover it. So everything is valid.
Yeah. All right. Well, Teddy, thanks for being on Inside Look here to kind of straighten out.
I hope we made sense, folks. I don't know.
They'll figure it out one way or the other. They made sense.
They did. Now you come on. Let me come on and just ramble about things.
No. We were better focused,
Okay.
which was the angle here. We asked specific questions, and you gave more or less specific answers. I
tried.
My questions tend to be obtuse. I'm still advocating for the Ted Haycraft podcast to be seen here soon. On our family of podcasts.
Stay tuned.
Yeah, I mean, we've got a pop culture one now that's called What's the Trend?
Trend?
And you see that every Friday here with him.
Yeah, they're scared to ask me on. I think they haven't. They haven't.
They shouldn't be scared.
I've been meaning to jump in on them.
Your resource. That's
scare
right.
'em.
So be sure to check out What's the Trend, and also thanks for listening and joining Inside Look with Ted Haycraft, our cinema chat and pop culture guru. I'm Jeff Lyons.
Go see a movie.
Thanks for joining.